All right, test, test, check 1, 2. How are we sounding? All right. What's up, Gomio? How's it going today? Glad you could make it. Where's my thing? There I am. What's up, after party? Good to see you. Hello. Welcome to yet another Friday feedback stream. What's up, Julia? How you doing? Today we are going to once again be going through and listening to the tracks that you guys sent me. So what I'm going to do first off is I'm going to copy and paste. Welcome, Julia. The link to the spreadsheet, and I'm going to pin that up to the top. What's up, Daniel? How are you today? Did that pin work? Let's try it again. No, it says it's pinned. There it is. So welcome. If you are joining us for the first time or you're new to how we do the Friday feedback streams around here, the way this works is there is a spreadsheet that is linked up at the top of chat that I've just pinned there. So it should stay there the whole time. Click that link. It'll take you to a spreadsheet, and then you put in your link as long as with your YouTube name and all that kind of stuff in there. And I will basically listen to them in the order that I receive them, and I will give you my feedback and honest feedback, whatever thoughts I can help you with your own productions. On top of that, you will also have the added, or I will have the added backup of chat to also give you feedback on things. So we already got a couple tracks in here, which is great. But before we dive into the first couple songs, I'm going to just kind of run through the general guidelines and rules that I always do at the start of the stream. So first off, ideally original tracks only, so no remixes or things like that, partially for copyright reasons. I don't want to get copyright strikes, and also if I'm giving feedback and I don't know which part of the song is your song and which part of the song is the remix, it makes it hard to do. So ideally, no remixes. I feel like somebody did one last week and I got a warning, but it's not a big deal. Ideally, I prefer works in progress over finished products. That way you can actually go back and use that feedback to continue working on them. If you don't have any works in progress and you have something maybe you released recently and then you want some feedback on it, you're more than welcome to do so. But I would encourage you guys to get used to sharing songs before they're done. I know it's really scary. It's really intimidating to share music anyway. But share the things while they're in the early part of the process. It's highly encouraged. Other than that, if you are sharing a song, it's not required, but I would also encourage you to give feedback to other people. So help out other people out. That way it's not just a one-way street of me just kind of talking into the camera, but you guys can help each other out, learn from each other, grow from each other. That's really kind of the whole point of doing this, is to build a community around sharing your tracks. Kind of along the same lines, it's good or I liked it doesn't really help as feedback. Unless you followed up with why. So let us know why it was good or why you liked it or any of that kind of stuff. Yeah, just help each other out. Songs will be reviewed in a first come, first serve basis. So I'm just going to kind of go down the spreadsheet. Usually at the end of stream, I have a little bit of extra time. So if you would like to submit a second song, wait till the end, wait till we get through everybody, see how we're doing on time. And then it's pretty likely that you can share a second song, but I like to make sure everybody gets through one first. On top of that, if you cannot make it to one of these streams, you can always send me a track through Discord, or you can just use the same link to the spreadsheet whenever you want, and I will review it on the next stream. And now all the streams get uploaded to the channel, so you can always go back and watch your feedback later on if you can't make it live. Gomio, I usually try to stream for about 2 hours. That's usually about the kind of bandwidth my brain has at a time. Sometimes a little longer, sometimes a little shorter, but 2 hours is kind of the general timing. But yeah, that's kind of it. Other things, if you like what's going on here, you can hit the like button and subscribe if you're not yet subscribed. You can also join the Discord. I'm trying to build a community of people who are wanting to help each other and kind of learn and grow as music producers together. If you are feeling generous, and this is totally optional, you can super chat and tip me if you like the feedback or you want to support the channel. But that is, all feedback is free, so don't feel like you have to do that. Or you can also check out the Patreon page, which is new, and I got some really good ideas on how I'm going to start building it out very, very soon. So yeah, that's kind of the idea. Welcome to everybody who's here, and we're gonna go ahead and jump right into it. Thanks, Gilmy, I appreciate it. So the first track was sent to me on Discord this morning by a Machine of Loving Grace. And we will do a real quick sound check. You guys in chat can let me know if it is too quiet or too loud or anything.
There is an entire book of the Bible, not the Torah, but in the Bible, that is devoted to this theme of the suffering of the righteous.
What's up, Yogi?
That book is, of course, the book of Job. So I want to talk a little bit about the book of Job.
My favorite book of the Bible is Job. I think it says more about my father's God in particular, and gods in general, than anything else I've ever read.
The entire book of the Bible is devoted to this theme of the suffering of the righteous.
In the book of Job, God says he made everything. And he knows everything. So no one has any right to question what he does with any of it.
Appreciate your prayers.
cares?
Yeah, I'm not sure if these samples are royalty free.
Wipe out a twist, family. And give it a brand new family. Toy children, like Job's children, are interchangeable.
There is an entire book of the Bible that is devoted to this theme of the suffering of the righteous. It's a beautiful, magnificent literary structure.
In a special sense, this is a remarkable book.
It is devoted to the suffering of the
Yeah, I can turn up a bit more. Well, now the song's over, but I'll keep it louder for the next one. So yeah, this is a really interesting track. Got a lot of really cool stuff going on with it, and I think that there's a few places that you could take a look at that I really think will help make a big difference. So first off, it seems kind of like cool. Yeah, I'll turn up the music a bit more. It seems like arrangement-wise, it felt a little clunky, and that was one of the biggest things that stood out to me at first. I feel like each one of your sections individually sounds pretty cool, and I like what you're doing with it, but especially as you kind of move from this like first area into the second area.
And he knows everything.
This is one kind of thing. And then you go to like Middle Eastern world. And I think the two work together. I think they work okay together, but I think there needs to be more tying those different parts of the song together. This could be done with some creative sampling and just making sure that there are certain things that kind of fit together. Maybe really spending a lot of time on the transition to make sure that transition makes sense. Maybe previewing a little bit of the Middle Eastern kind of style and Middle Eastern sound earlier on in the song. Something to make it seem like it's not just kind of like, it felt like the beginning was one song, the middle was a different song, and then the end was the first song again. So making those kind of jive together, I think, will make a huge difference in the arrangement and making the whole thing feel like one song as opposed to a song that kind of jumps around. All right, as far as kind of like production stuff, I think the things that I would work on the most, I really like what you did with your snares. You had all these really cool, interesting snare patterns, the very kind of like acoustic sounding snare patterns and trills and things like that. Keep those are great. But across the board, your kick drum to me felt a little bit distant and weak. And I think just turn the volume up on it across the board will make a big difference, especially during this section, because this is the more kind of like dancey section. And maybe even replace what you're using for your low end drums there with like a more boomier kick drum. Could be kind of cool, just to get a little bit more low end in there. And if you want people to dance to this, I'm not sure what the intentions are when you wrote the song, whether you want this is like a dance music track or not. But having a more solid, more tangible, more noticeable kick drum will make this section feel a bit more groovy and people will want to dance to it. The other thing is I really like your bass line. I like the sound of it. This one here. Down, 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 down. And then the bass line over here also is really cool. It's like a lot more lower and subtle here. And then over here, you kind of bring back the original one.
Bang, bang. 7 toys fall down.
All those bass lines are working for me, but all of them could be louder. And I also think you could get a little more creative with the sound design. I think that I like what it's doing. It has this kind of metallic donk kind of pluck bass sound to it. So I know what you're going for, and I think it's working okay, but I think it needs to be bigger and more interesting, and maybe just toss a saturator on it, maybe toss some other effects on it, just to make it stand out a little bit more, maybe compress it a little bit more. And that way it'll feel like it's a more of a driving force behind the song. Right now, it just like, you know, I like the notes you're using and I like the sound as a basic foundation. But really make that bass line hit home. I think, again, if you want people to dance to this, make sure that kick is really noticeable and make sure that bass line is really kind of present and grooving. Other than that, I feel like you're right at the edge of overdoing it with the vocal samples. And luckily there's a kind of like break in the middle where you don't get as many of the vocal samples of like people talking and things like that. I think if you did any more vocal samples, it would feel like it's too much and it would really be distracting from all the rest of the cool musical stuff that's happening. If you wanted to remove a few of those vocal samples, I like that you did like weird effects on a lot of them. A lot of them had like weird delays and bounced around, and that kept them fresh and interesting. But you could have a tiny bit less of those talking samples on here, and I wouldn't mind, but definitely not any more than you have right now. Yeah, those are kind of the main feedback things I'm thinking about. Like I said, I like how the intro has this almost kind of like a dubby feel, and like you could really play into that a lot more, like old school dub music. And then I really like the Middle Eastern vibe here. Needs more of a kick drum. Maybe a tiny bit less volume on some of that percussion, just a hair less. And this part's pretty cool, but the bass line needs to be cooler.
The best title that you can receive.
Who cares what the toys think?
I love what you're doing with the snares there. So yeah, a lot of really cool stuff going on here. I think that dial in the arrangement a little bit, maybe do a little bit more sound design on like your kick and your bass, where you make sure everything kind of fits together. But yeah, it's a cool track, interesting direction. I personally want it to be more dancey, but that might not be what you want. And in that case, don't worry about it and still do more kick, but you don't need to like make it a full dance track if that's not what you're into. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking here. I think it sounds good. Yeah, it has a very kind of like harmonic minor kind of vibe to it. So I'm assuming the key it's in. Sweet. Chat, any other thoughts, ideas, questions, comments, things? Yeah, some more pad sounds, Mike. I agree with that. That could work really well in here as well. But yeah, thanks for sharing that. All right, next up we got Gomeo. And just to let you guys know, if you are just joining us and you are new here, you are highly encouraged to share that, to share your tracks. And you can do so by clicking on the spreadsheet that is linked up at the top of the chat. And just toss it in there, and I will get to it as soon as I get to it. Daniel, this is you, the last track. All right, let's see Gomeo's track. Nice work, Daniel. It sounded really solid.
Tell me what you want, babe.
Tell me what you want, babe, and you'll get it. Look at what you got, man. Don't forget it, 'cause I can give you what you need. I'll be your fantasy. I got you. Tell me what you want, babe, and come get it.
And come get it.
Nice. Really solid foundation of a track here. I think all the right elements are there. I feel like it's missing something though, and a couple ideas of what it might be missing. But I feel like it needs another layer to really like bring me in and captivate me. I think the drum beat sounds really good. The bass line sounds pretty solid. I actually really like the use of your vocal samples here. But we're going to kind of go through it chronologically just to kind of like talk it one bit at a time. I think the intro is pretty good. However, it feels a little bit long, and I think the way you can fix this is these vocal samples that come in along some point. Those vocal samples are really good, and you could maybe sprinkle them a little bit earlier on in the intro just to help kind of like capture the listener's attention a little bit more. This is something I've been working on a lot in both my own tracks and as well as with people I work with. The intro is not just dead space. You need to, the intro is how you're going to get attention. So if this were to pop up on somebody's Spotify playlist for the week or whatever, and you got about 30 seconds before they hit the next button. So you need to make sure that you have something that's going to like entice the listener. It's going to make them want to hear more. And I think that this vocal sample to me is what did it. But it came about 45, almost 50 seconds into the track. So sprinkle some more of those vocal samples in there. So that way people are like, oh, I want to hear more of this. I want to hear where this is going. So use your intro not just as like, it's just the same as later in the song, but with less going on. But like grab people's attention, grab people, like pique somebody's curiosity in the first 30 seconds is really, really helpful. Especially for DJs who are just kind of like skimming through looking for tracks and they just want to find something that they can throw in their DJ set. You gotta make sure you grab them a little bit. So a little bit more in those first 30 seconds, I think will be great. And I think those vocal samples, what you're doing already with them, more of that. Perfect.
Tell me what you want, give you what you need, and come get it.
And then I feel like this kind of build to drop is good. And I like the use of the negative space there. I just think it needs to be louder, really. I think it like make that sweep a little bit louder. And that way it kind of builds more energy. And then, because you're already using that little bit of negative space to kind of reset and be before your drop. So make that a little more energy in there. If you want to do a little bit more kind of drum builds, that would be really great. But if nothing else, at least make that sweep a little bit louder. So that way, like it really kind of gets me hyped up for when the bass comes in. I like the bass line here. I like the drum beats. I feel like the off time hi-hats, which I know is like just part of how this genre works, are working for me. But I think percussively, or is that even a word? In terms of your percussion, another layer in there I think will do really good. Shakers are what I've been using a lot, but little kind of like things that you can toss a little bit of swing on just to make it groove a little more, make all the difference in the world for a beat like this and making it really feel like it hits. Because here's actually probably the biggest issue. This whole section right here, as well as this whole section right here, all you have is your kick. I get distracted by chat. You got your kick, you got your snare, you got your off time hi-hat, and you got your bass. That's all there is, which I think is a totally legit way to do it. But I think this is where you need the extra layer. And I personally would love something a little bit melodic to go with it. You could have some like pad chords in the background if you wanted to with a really heavy sidechain, but I would go somewhere more melodic with it. This could be a melodic synth line. This could be a little plucked synth. There's a lot of different directions you could go with it. And realistically, later on, where was it? That right there. You had this little break in the bass line, and then the vocal came in. That was perfect. However, you made me wait way too long to do that. I think you can have those little breaks in the bass line 2 or 3 times before we get to this point, which is at 154. So little breaks like that where you like stop the bass, something else happens, and then bass line starts again. Great, works perfectly, and you did a great job here. But this is one of the only places where that happens. I think it happens in the second drop too. So using that negative space, stopping the bass line for a second, come in with something melodic. It can be your pitched up or pitched down vocal. It could be a little synth line. It could be whatever. But using that space will make it so it doesn't just feel like, oh, this is just drums and bass right now. So you're doing the right thing, but just more of that. And then you go a little bit too crazy with the delay on the bass. I think in this style of music, you can get away with a tiny bit of delay on your bass line. But I think you did a little too much here. Not a whole lot too much, but just a little bit too much. It felt a little bit distracting. All right, and then we have this whole section right here, which I liked a lot, but it was too long, I think. I think I kind of like lost track of what was happening a little bit. And it just like wasn't as exciting as the other parts of the song. So I think this little break here can be a little shorter.
Tell me what you want, babe.
Well, this part's really cool, actually. This sounds really good.
Look at what you got, man. Don't fuck.
And then same thing with this kind of build and drop. I'm not getting the kind of impact with it that I want. Same as the first one. So a little bit louder here, a little more emphasis on kind of like those energy building elements would be great. What's up, Gauntlet? How are you doing today? Yeah, and then I think this kind of drop area has the same issues as the first one. So some melody in there, some breaks in the bass line to toss in some vocal samples or whatever weird stuff you want to toss in there. And then you're good to go. But yeah, like I said, really solid foundation. Everything sounds really good. It sounds like you know and understand the genre, which I think is like one of the first steps to really like making good music. Yeah, Josh, I think more emphasis. There already is some noise sweeps before the bass drops, but more emphasis on those noise sweeps before the drops, I think would be great. Yeah, it sounds like you really know the genre. It sounds like you know kind of like what elements you need to toss in there. And I think from here, it's just kind of spicing it up and just dialing in the details a little bit and maybe tightening up the arrangement a little bit. But yeah, really solid track. Thanks for sharing that, Gamyo. Chat, you got any other thoughts, ideas, questions, comments, feedback? One thing I like to encourage people to do when they are giving feedback for other people is think about, if this is your track, what do you do next? What's the next 2 or 3 things you're going to do to make it better if this was something you woke up in the morning and you created? So that's a good way to kind of approach doing feedback. It's just like, all right, you're up to me. I would add more vocals, or I would, do whatever. So I'll be thinking about that as you are giving each other feedback. It's a good way to kind of like just get in practice with it. All right, so we got a 10-minute generative piece from Mike, and Mike, I'm gonna apologize. I'm not gonna be able to do the whole 10 minutes of generative. So if there's a particular section that you want me to get into, I can do that, or I might jump around a little bit just to kind of see what's going on. Cool, yeah, I might jump around a little bit once we kind of get the vibe. Hey, Gomeo, for your first track, it sounds dope. All right, I'm gonna skip ahead a little bit, but I'm digging this so far. So, Mike, I saw you posted a link in the spreadsheet about how you made this, but you'll have to. I haven't checked the link, so you'll have to describe it in chat for me, just so I kind of know where you're coming at from. Nice. If you had not told me that that was a generative piece, I probably would not have known that. So yeah, this is really cool. I like this quite a bit. I do really like generative music, and I do really like ambient music, and I feel like this did a really good job of not getting too abstract. There was enough chord structure and enough melodic structure in there that it kept it interesting. And I felt like your pads were really good. The pads sounded really solid. They're really lush, really beautiful. Love all the effects and kind of shifting and changing and everything kind of like coming in and out. Everything like flowed together very smoothly, which is great. I feel like if it were up to me, the biggest thing I would probably do is occasionally, by setting up some kind of generative process to do this, have things change octaves a little bit more, particularly with your piano melodies that are playing almost the kind of like arpeggiated part. Have them occasionally bounce up to higher octaves, because it did feel like you were kind of missing something in that frequency range. Like you had a bunch of like pads and things in that range, but something melodic up in that higher range, I think will go really well. And you could like kind of set up an arpeggiator so that it like occasionally randomly will go up, or you could use the MIDI pitch device and set up a bunch of like racks with those to kind of like jump up to like different octaves, and like especially with a bunch of reverb and delay on it to make these kind of like echoey, beautiful, pitchy things in the background could go really well. So that was the biggest thing I probably noticed, was just, especially with the piano, especially the melodic stuff, octave changes, more of them. Other than that, I think it'd be cool if you had like a really low end sub bass, like just like a sine wave that was also kind of like very slowly changing randomly from one note to another. That could be really cool as just a way to kind of like more kind of fill out that entire frequency range. Yeah, just a really low sine wave in that like 40 to 60 hertz range could be really cool, but not entirely necessary. Yeah, I wouldn't mind a little bit more going a little crazier with the panning. I agree with Gamya. That'd be cool. Another really fun thing that you could consider doing is a little bit of side chaining. So in this, that you don't have any like super present chords or super present things that happen, but if you wanted to add some, you could then side chain some of your pads to these occasional chords or different things that come in, so that way things kind of are bouncing around in terms of volume with each other. And it's a really fun way to like create a little bit more like dynamic content in there that I think would work. Other than that, I think just make it a tiny bit shorter. I think it's like, I think a lot of times the just because you can make these really long generative tracks doesn't mean you necessarily need to. So if you edited this down to 5 minutes or so, I think that'd be like the perfect length. So that way somebody can like tune in, listen to it, chill out, enjoy it, experience it for what it is. I think just the 10-minute length just makes it seem like a little bit daunting just to even like get into it. Yeah, I just feel like anytime people are making generative music, they're like, here's my 38-minute generative track. And it's like, that's just a lot to handle. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think it's like definitely sounds really pretty. I love the overuse of reverb in here. How everything just kind of like floating in space. Yeah. The only other thing I think, now, sometimes the piano sounds a little bit repetitive because we're kind of getting to the same notes over and over again. But the fact that it kind of like fades in and fades out over the course of the track makes me not mind it as much. Yeah, super cool. I'm digging it. And you said you made this all with follow actions. You just had a bunch of different clips in the session view, and you had a bunch of follow actions that were like randomly jumping between different notes and chords. If you guys have not tried making music that way, it's really fun. It's like not something you want to do for every single track, but it's definitely an interesting, cool way to think about making music. Sweet. Awesome. Well, got a bunch more songs in the spreadsheet. So if you are just joining us and you would like to submit a track, you can go ahead and click on the link that is pinned up at the top of the chat, and that will take you to the spreadsheet, and that's where you can send me your track. Yeah, Gomeo, I do have a video on the channel about follow actions. I'm pretty sure I do. I'm almost positive I do. If I don't, I'll make one. I thought I already did one like maybe a month or two ago. But yeah, follow actions are super cool. No, I definitely did one. I'm almost positive I did one. So yeah, and if you are enjoying the stream, if you're enjoying the feedback, feel free to hit the like button, subscribe if you are not yet subscribed. Yeah, we're gonna get through all these. Yeah, I'll check out your follow action recipe after stream sometime, Mike. I definitely want to check that out. All right, so this is Yogi. Said he's mostly looking for some feedback on the mix here.
Walked in the big open room, big open room, and in the big open when you walk in the kitchen, the big open.
Playing with fire.
And did not realize big open room. Open room and time. That's when I can actually see it in my head right now. Open. Was it
Nice. This is really dope. If you guys have ever watched pretty much any of my streams before, you know that I love glitchy, weird shit, and you're crushing it on that front. Like the use of the vocal samples, things bouncing around, weird sound effects that I wouldn't have expected to be there, like just killing it on the vibe in terms of that. However, I feel like I'm hearing a lot of different artistic influences here, and it sounds like what you're trying to do a little bit is do a little bit of that kind of like lo-fi boom bap hip hop meets like weird experimental arca tipper glitch hop kind of stuff. And I feel like on the weird experimental glitch side of things, it's going real well, but on the classic old school boom bap hip hop, it needs a little bit of love, I think, particularly with the drums. You've done a lot of really cool stuff with the drums, but the drums are just not like hitting home for me the way I really want them to. And this might be my personal bias in that I personally want you to go more kind of hip hoppy with the drums. But that's up to you. But I think just coming into them, you have this kind of like distorted 808 kind of kick drum, which I think works okay, but try layering that with like an acoustic sounding kick drum, even like a lo-fi acoustic sounding kick drum, just to kind of like mesh those two things together and get you a little more punch out of that drum. I think will go really, really well. Same thing with your kind of snare clap sound. It has this really nice delay on it, which I like, and it has this really nice textural quality to it, which I also like. But it sounds a little quiet and a little bit flat. So once again, you could try layering this up with like a nice acoustic sounding clap or acoustic sounding snare. Also toss a tiny bit of reverb on here just to also kind of like thicken it up a little bit. I think could go really well. And then I like what you're doing a lot with like different percussive elements. There's this kind of like weird lo-fi open hi-hat with reverb on it that like has this really kind of cool chill vibe to it. More stuff like that I think would go really well. I think yeah, layer more for punch, weight, and again going for that kind of like heavier, not necessarily even lo-fi, but like it doesn't need to be super high-end crisp samples. They can be a little dirty, they can have a little character to them, because this whole song has this kind of like textural dirty character quality to it, and I think you should definitely continue riding that line. I think in terms of percussion though, you can also get really weird here. For me personally, what I would do, and this might just be me, is like get like a tin can and fill it with rocks and then like shake that and then record that, or just something weird like that. Just some kind of like thing that's not your everyday sample library kind of percussion. You can like get a little shaker or something, just to kind of like give it this very human, organic feel. That's what I think. Organic drums in combination with the weird, glitchy everything else, I think will like that'll make the whole thing work. Other than that, I liked all the other stuff. I think weird chop vocals, like I like the weird like it sounds like a rattlesnake almost.
Big
All right, then this part right here. You have this little bass line that comes in. I like how glitchy it is, but I think that also needs a little bit more power in the mix. I think just make that a little louder. I personally think if you wanted to go more like a tipper kind of route with some of the bassline stuff, some of like the weird, crazy bass lines, that could also work here if you wanted to go that direction with it. All right. And then my other final piece of feedback here that's critical, because I love everything else about this track, is that it feels like the arrangement gets a little bit rambly. Like I really like what it's saying, but towards the end here, it feels like, okay, I'm not really sure where I am in the song. I mean, it doesn't need to be like exactly like a tipper bass line, but like that kind of sound design, that kind of like really juicy, kind of weird bass lines, I think could fit in here well. You don't need to like, you know, nobody can really do what tipper does, but you can at least kind of like something in that kind of realm. But yeah, the arrangement gets a little bit rambly. So I feel like this last little bit, I was like, this is cool, but like, where am I in this song? What's happening? So I think you could make the arrangement a little bit shorter. I feel like I give a lot of people that feedback, but I think it's true. A lot of times less is more when it comes to arrangement. So you can make it a little shorter. There's cool stuff going on now. But like, what am I getting here that's new and interesting and exciting that I'm not getting over here? And maybe you are putting new stuff in there, and I just didn't notice. But I think the last like minute or so, I was just like, what's going on now? I just feel like I'm so lost in all these sounds, and that might be intentional. That might be something you want to just stick with and be like, yeah, I want people to be very confused by the end of the song. If so, then you're on the right path. But I would probably make it 45 seconds shorter and just kind of like dial in this last little bit a little more. But yeah, super cool track. Really digging the style on that. And I think in terms of mix, like I said, mostly what I'm hearing is the drum stuff that needs a little bit of love, a little bit more on the bass line, but everything else sounded pretty solid.
Open.
Yeah, and you got a lot of like weird textural layers that I think are just going to make mixing a little tricky, but it sounds like you're mostly where you want to be with the mix. I didn't hear anything that was like too far out of where it should be. Yeah, that's Gamya. This is exactly why I have people in chat give feedback too, because my opinion is not the end all be all. Like trust yourself more than anything, and then trust chat more than you trust me, and then trust me third, I guess. And the priority of trust in this world that we live in. I think it's important just to remember that. Well, this is only 8 seconds long. Julio, if you're still out there, I can listen to 8 seconds, but I don't know how much feedback I can give on it. I don't think that was intentional. But yeah, always trust yourself when it comes to feedback in songs about things. All right. Let's see these 8 seconds. Go to number 13. Oh, in the spreadsheet. All right, let's try this again. Cool. This looks more. Well, at least it's longer. All right. Julia, anything you want us to know about this track? Feel free to toss it in the chat. All right, I'm going to turn this up a little bit, I think. No worries, Julia. All levels of experience are welcome here. Yeah, we're all beginners at some point. Being a beginner, actually, I think is a dope place to be. Nice. So I feel like it kind of reminds me of The Residents a little bit. If you've never checked them out, they're like a weird experimental band from the 70s and 80s. Super, very much this kind of thing. It's cool. I like what you're going. I can kind of see the concept of what's happening here, but I think there are a few interesting things you probably want to take a look at. Number one, the big one, and I think chat caught up on this a little bit as well. There's some dissonance going on here. So like your bass line and your chords and your melodies may not all be in the right key, or they might be they're just clashing a little bit, which is something that if you want to do, that's an interesting, bold choice to make, but that probably not for your first couple tracks. I don't think we're ready for that yet. So probably first thing I'd recommend doing is maybe working a little bit on your music theory and just kind of like, pick a key and just try to stay in that key. And that's a great exercise just to kind of like learn your way around how to make music. Is just pick whatever key. It can be C major, it can be any key you want. Find out what notes are in that key, stick in that key, write all your stuff in that key, and then you don't need to worry about that. I think in terms of how you are putting together your arrangement, it has this very kind of like one thing gets added, and then the next thing gets added, and then the next thing gets added. And I feel like you might be better off maybe kind of building an arrangement where it's not just one thing at a time that comes in. So for example, maybe instead of having the intro be just drums, have the intro be drums and chords together. So basically like starting more with this kind of situation. Also, these drums kind of remind me of Jalen a little bit. If you guys ever listen to her, she like does like weird footwork music. So yeah, maybe start with the chords and the drums together. So that way the drums don't sound so empty during the intro. And then right after that, then you layer in your melody. And just kind of think about like how you want the idea of this song to progress. And kind of like adding in more layers. And I think ultimately you're gonna need probably a couple more layers as well to go on top of this. So maybe some vocals could be kind of good. Whatever other instruments you want to could work really well. That way you can kind of build like an intro, an A section, a B section, and then an outro, which is what I think is kind of like the basics of what you need for an arrangement. But yeah, I think those are kind of the main things that you should probably look at, is just kind of like thinking about how the flow of ideas happens. What's the first sound, what's the next sound, what's the next sound, and making sure that order makes sense. And then maybe having multiple things come in and out at the same time. That can be a really effective way to build an arrangement. And then, yeah, just making sure you keep things in key. I don't think I have a lot of videos on music theory on the channel right now, but I might start doing some, just because it's something a lot of people have questions about. Yeah, and then just more layers. I think the 2 pieces of advice for people who are kind of just beginning, or just kind of the start, or even people who are intermediate or advanced, is number 1, when you are writing music, just throw everything against the wall and see what sticks. Just make lots of stuff. Just like, don't even care if it's good or bad. Don't even, like, that doesn't even matter. Just make lots of things. And I think for this, just add more layers to it. You can worry about which layers come in and out later on, but just keep on adding more layers. Add some drums, or add some vocals, add some more percussion, add some weird sound effects, add whatever you want. It doesn't matter at this stage. Just make lots of things. Yeah, quantity over quality, 100%. And that goes for the amount of sounds you put into a single song, but also the number of songs that you write. What's up, Van? How you doing? But yeah, it's cool. I think you're using this as a kind of jumping off point for like just kind of building and adding more to it. I'm super curious to kind of see where you go with it, and just keep playing around with it. See what happens. It's all about experimentation, basically, at this point. Yeah, and then some people are talking about using like reference tracks in chat. I agree with that. Reference tracks are fantastic. Well, cool. Thanks you, Julio, for sharing that. I know it's always like intimidating to share work, especially if you're new. So just want everybody to know that you guys are welcome to share whatever you got. Doesn't need to be like good and bad don't matter. It's like Yoda said. Like, you know, there is no good and bad. It's just whatever it is. That's not what Yoda said, but he said something kind of like that. Let's turn this down a little bit. Damn, that is a very tight track. I like this quite a bit, Ganya. It sounds like your arrangement is sounding really smooth, which is something that I sometimes have given you feedback on the past. Mix sounds really clean. I've had a couple minor pieces of feedback on the mix, but just like sounds huge, it sounds beefy, it sounds great. This is definitely the kind of track that I would play in a DJ set. So when you finish this, just send it to me and I'll drop this in a track in my next set. Sound design sounded really solid. There's a lot of things about this track that I really love. I honestly feel like it could be longer, which is kind of the opposite feedback I've been given a lot today. I feel like you could really ride this out and make this at least another minute long, and just kind of keep experimenting with different ideas using the same kind of thematic element. But we're going to go through it little by little just to kind of pick it apart. So first off, mix-wise, I think a lot of your percussion, a lot of your shakers and things like that are a hair too loud in the mix. And that's just across the board. This build sounds great. Yeah, sounds huge. Love it. That horn, also love that. Sounds amazing. You could maybe use more of that horn in the track. Like, don't overdo it with the horn, but the horn fit perfectly. All right, here's my first big, but it's still not that big. My first real kind of critique. There's this synth line that comes in that's just like doot doot doot, which sounds great and really cool, but it's too simple. I want there to be more to it. I want it to go doot doot doot, and then like it'll break and then like doot doot doot, or like have some kind of more element to it. Right now it just sounds like it's two or three notes, and it's just like it works. Sound design is great, but melodically, I want it to do more. I want it to tell more of the story of this track, which I think it kind of does a little bit later, but in this part specifically, I was expecting there to be more to that particular sequence of notes, and it just never happened. Yeah, there it is. There's the response. That's what I like. But in the first parts, it just feels like not enough. And maybe that's good. Maybe that's what you want it to do. Maybe you want to like only tease it out a little bit at first. But that kind of call and response with the melody, I think, is doing good. Yeah, this part here is so dope. This part could be longer, or you could come back to this part if you wanted to make the song longer. Yeah, here's that kind of like metallic percussive guy is a little bit too loud. Also really love that synth line. You could maybe even add a little bit of silence after that synth line before the beat comes in if you wanted to, and that could be kind of cool. But I love that it's like that's the only time it happens, I think. Yeah, I love it. This track is great. This would absolutely slay at Burning Man. Like you could take this to an art car and just crush it at Burning Man. Yeah, love this track. Really cool. One of the best tracks you've sent me, and you've sent me a lot over the last couple of weeks, months, or whatever. So yeah, definitely finish this up, dial it in, make it longer, play around with that melody a little bit, turn down the shakers a little bit, and then send it to me, and I'll drop this in a DJ set, no question. Hey, Gomia, thanks for popping by. Thanks for sending a track, and I look forward to hearing some more from you in the future. All right. Got a track from Sasha Agudulin? We'll see. Fascinating. This is pretty cool. I like what is going on. It feels, I don't know, I feel like the length is actually kind of cool. It feels like a little bit of like a sketch. It feels like a little, like, here's like a little slice of life kind of thing. I could see this going on an album and like being sandwiched by like 2 other longer songs and having this as kind of like a cool little palette cleanser kind of thing in between. But yeah, let's take a look at it kind of a little at a time, just to see what's going on. I think this is this one that's part of a like a song a day challenge? Oh, nice. So this is part of a song a day challenge that they are doing. So these sounds all sound cool. So the thing you're using kind of like a kick here, it cuts off really fast, and I'm not sure I love that. I like that it's this kind of like weird textural, non-traditional like bass drum, but it sounds like it's getting the end is being cut off, but that might be part of the character you want to go for. Really love the kind of like, it sounds like a plucky kind of harp almost in there. That could be there. I could see more emphasis going on that. I can't tell if I'm going crazy, but it sounds like there's birds in the background, which I love. If there's not birds in the background, you should put birds in the background because I think it sounds really cool. What was the other piece of feedback? Oh, it kind of reminds me of the books a little bit. If you guys recall way back when the books were a thing, they had a lot of this, not necessarily this kind of thing, but kind of similar idea. Yeah, it has this very nice kind of like just like slice of life. Here's a little thing. It feels very honest, which I love. I think in a lot of situations when people are making music or electronic music, everybody's trying to make these like big fat dope beats, and that's all anybody really cares about. is making bangers. And this feels like a really honest, like, yeah, this is just how I was feeling that day. This is what was going on in my brain and in my life, and this is what it sounded like. So I like that a lot. Honesty in music, I'm in favor of that. But I feel like a lot of the feedback that I might give, I don't want to give, because then it ruins the honesty of it. It ruins the kind of like the, not just like innocence, but just the kind of like the truth that is this piece, which is really cool. So I really like it. Like I said, I definitely see this going on like an album as like a little interlude between other songs, and it works perfectly. If you wanted to put some samples of somebody talking in here, I feel like that would work really well. If you wanted to put birds chirping in the background, that would, I think, work really well. But I don't think you need to do a lot to this to, like, it already is what it is. It's like, it's doing the thing that it's meant to do, I think, really well. So yeah, I'm into it. I don't know if you're still around in chat, but I'd love to hear a little bit more about kind of this song a day challenge you're doing, and kind of see where you're at with it. All right, Van, I saw you added a bunch in there. I might get around to one or two of them, depending on how much time we have at the end. We shall see. All right, this is from Inverse. Looking for advice on build-ups, sound design, adding more layers, etc. So hopefully, Inverse, your internet works out, because we're doing your song now. This is dope. I like this a lot. Nice. This is a really dope track, Inverse. I like what's going on a lot. Before we dive into that, I did want to let anybody who is just joining us, if you would like to submit a track, click on the spreadsheet that is pinned up at the chat. And then that's where you send me your tracks, and that's where I'll listen to them. Also, if you're enjoying the stream, if you're enjoying the feedback, you can feel free to hit the like button, subscribe. If you're not subscribed yet, and if you want to support the channel, you can super chat and give me money, because that's super cool of you to do. But feedback is free. You do not need to do that. So yeah, this track, it's got a lot going on, and you do a really good job of not making it too overwhelming. All the layers fit together really nicely. was it you like jamming out on the keyboard for this, or these samples you're using? It has this really nice kind of like future bass, but also has a little like a bit of like jazz to it, and also a little of like J-pop a little bit. Like almost has like some of those chords are almost kind of like anime theme song chords a little bit. So you're in this really nice sweet spot between a lot of different stylistic choices, and they are all intersecting really nicely, and it's coming together really well. So yeah, I don't have a huge amount of feedback on this. Mix sounds pretty solid. I do think the mix does need a bit more work because you have so many different layers, and the more layers you have, the harder it is to mix. If you nail the mix for this, though, if you put a lot of time and effort into really dialing it in, making it really clean, this is like you're good to go. You get signed to a label on something like this. Yeah, you're shredding and it's great. I think let's go ahead and let's kind of review it a little bit. Love all the chords. To me, I was going to give you feedback on your kick, but it sounds like your kick changes a little bit from different parts of the song to parts of the song. You have this like kind of like houseier kick over here. Maybe it's the same kick. Maybe I'm just going crazy. I don't know why, but to me, it sounds like during your intro and kind of first section over here, the kick has a little bit more of like a low end feel to it, which I liked a lot. And as I was listening to other parts of your song, it felt like it was missing some of that low end feel, especially at the end right here. So the kick over here has this very kind of like mid-range thumpiness to it. And for some reason, I'm not sure why, but we're losing a lot of that low end. So just make sure that that low end of that kick really kind of shines through a little bit more. At least that's personally what I do with it. Love those parts. That little melodic part, the little kind of plucky part here, could be a bit louder, and I wouldn't mind. By any chance, are you a Mr. Bill fan? I'm hearing a lot of like Mr. Bill kind of edits in here. I like the snap that you're using, but it sounds a little dry to me. Maybe toss a hair of reverb on that snap, and I think that'll do the trick there. Yeah, you're actually doing a really good job of keeping it really clean right here. This is probably one of the most complex parts of the song. And mix-wise, it's sounding pretty solid. You might just need to like really make sure you nail the master on this, because the mix I'm like not hearing a whole lot besides a few little minor drum things here and there. Yeah, same thing here. You have this kind of like plucky guy. Maybe turn that plucky guy up a little bit. Takayuno, all right. I don't know Takayuno. If you don't know Mr. Bill, you need to know Mr. Bill, especially if you're into this kind of music. He's like one of the OGs of just kind of like weird, glitchy, crazy sounds, basically. He's got a really fantastic YouTube channel as well, where he talks about a lot of really crazy, weird Ableton things. So check out his music, but also check out his YouTube stuff. A lot of his stuff is a little more kind of like down tempo-y, bassier, but a lot of the stuff fits in this realm for sure. I think that's kind of a bold ending right there. I think this track could be a little bit longer if you wanted to. I kind of like how it just kind of like chord, 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 end. So I kind of like that as like an outro. But yeah, I honestly don't have a huge amount of critical feedback here because I think it's sounding really solid. I think that dialing in some of your drums a little bit, turning up some of those melodic parts a tiny bit. I love that you're just shredding on the keyboard and it sounds dope. And I love all the little tiny edits. It's like, it feels like there is a lot of love put into making this track, which to me is a really great sign when I hear a track. So yeah, I kind of like the ending. I think this kind of housey part could be a little bit longer, but I like that it's kind of like chord, 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 done. Done. Yeah, I kind of like that. You should keep that as the ending, but you should maybe add a little bit more before that. Cool. Yeah, sweet. Really, really solid track. Definitely, this is another one of the ones that I'd love to hear once you kind of get it all finished and dialed in. All right, we got a track from D-Man next. Yeah, bold endings are dope. I feel like if you have a good track and then you like nail it on the ending, it just makes the track that much better. Daniel, thanks for hopping by. Nice. We got another. Oh, that was the next song, I guess. Yeah, so we got another kind of interesting ambient experimental piece here. I like what's going on. I like the kind of like weird arpeggiator, and then you have this. It sounds like a pad that's sidechained to something that is not actually happening. Like it's sidechained to a kick, like a ghost kick that's not actually there. Sometimes the sidechain feels off, or whatever's creating that pulse feels off time, which I don't mind. I think for a track like this, timing is overrated. Do whatever you want. The less you're on time, the better, honestly. But there are a few points where it felt kind of weird because it felt like the arpeggiator was going, or I don't know if it's your arpeggiator or you just playing up and down a bunch of notes. The timing was off between them, and it created this little bit of kind of like piqued my attention a little bit, which I think is fine, but it was just noticeable, I guess is what I'm trying to say there. Other than that, Yeah, it sounds like you're messing around with arpeggiator. I kind of wanted it to climax a little bit somehow, either by adding in some more layers to kind of create this little bit more of like noise or more things happening, or like filtering things in weird ways. So it felt like it was kind of building towards something. Right now, it just feels like this is a song that basically just has one section. And that section changes a little bit from here to there, but it's kind of doing the same thing here as it is over here. It's just kind of more dissonant and more weird towards the end. So I kind of wish there was like an event that happens that kind of makes the song progress, or there were really obvious layers that either came in or came out as the song progressed to either build up the energy or bring the energy down. But I feel like, yeah, I mean, it sounds like this is really kind of designed as to like go with like a weird experimental film, or like something like a soundtrack to something. Like I could see like a little like short animated film or something this could go really well with. And if that's the goal, then I think you're on the right path there. It's sufficiently weird enough, and it is. I just want it to change more, kind of as the track goes on. Chat, any thoughts, comments, feedback, ideas? Sweet. All right. Moving right along. So this is a drum and bass song, I'm assuming, because that's the name of it, by Real Milk Dude. Is this a video of them just playing their track? Like I said, Milk Dude, any experience level, skill level, whatever, it's all welcome here. Yeah, I'm not sure who dislikes a stream like this, but whatever. Yeah, I will stand by my statement that I made a few weeks ago on stream, that drum and bass is the single most difficult genre to produce. Nice. This always happens. How do I go back? Replay. So I'm digging it. For your first track that you've ever made, this sounds very, very good. And like I said, when the song is playing, drum and bass is extremely difficult to produce, in my opinion. So first off, let me talk about the things I really liked. I feel like the drums worked great. And that's a big part of drum bass. It's literally half of the name. So I feel like your drums give me the drum and bass vibe. It's pretty spot on. I think they sound really good. Production-wise, I think they sound pretty solid. So no complaints about the drums, which is usually a complaint I have about drum and bass. And then I like a lot of what your bass line is doing. The kind of like the kind of like call and response between these two different bass lines doing the different things. And then later on, you kind of have this more kind of like noisy bass line that comes in that I also really like. That guy. So good use of noise there, good use of the bass lines going back and forth, good use of the drums. But I think in terms of things you can improve, I think there's really kind of 2 or 3 things you can take a look at. Number one is the melody part, the don't. I like it, but it needs to change and grow and evolve as the song changes and grows and evolves. People get really bored really fast, and so if they end up having to hear the same sound over and over again, then they get bored and then they hit the next song or whatever. So maybe have it start out like this, and then maybe each time it comes back in, it looks like it comes into this part and it comes in this part. Switch it up a little bit. Maybe add a bunch of delay to it, or maybe pitch it up an octave, or pitch it down an octave, or maybe add a few more notes, or maybe take out a few notes. Something to make it that part like work a little, do a little more, I think. One of the things I'll often do whenever I'm producing, especially something like this, where I have this kind of like repetitive synthy melody, is I'll duplicate the whole track and then I will tweak it like crazy. So it's the exact same notes, but it'll sound a little different. And that way I can go back and forth between different layers. And I'll do that 2 or 3 different times. So I might have like 3 or 4 different layers of the exact same melody, all with different kinds of sounds doing slightly different things, or sometimes very different things. And then that way, as the song changes, I can like, okay, we can do this one, and then we can do this one, and we can do these 2 together. And it just creates a lot more interest in what's going on. So more layers means you can take the arrangement more places. So try that out for yourself and see how that goes. And the same thing could kind of be true for your bass line. I think your bass line for the most part is working for me, but it does get repetitive after a while. So add a few more layers of your bass line, just duplicate your bass line, tweak it a little bit on the extra layers, and then you can go back and forth between 2 layers You have 4 different layers you can jump back and forth between. And I think that once you do that, the rest of the arrangement will really start to kind of like gel together and work, I think, in your favor. Other than that, I think both of your drop sections could be 8 bars shorter, and I wouldn't mind, but that's up to you. And then lastly, maybe some vocal samples. I think putting some vocal samples in here could be a really cool way to, again, give it a little more character, give more feeling. Let's see, so here you've got a different version of the melody, and it works because it's different. Yeah, those are the main things that I would take a look for or look out for when you're producing and finishing this track up. For your first track, we've had a couple people have had kind of sending me their first tracks today. Sounds great. You're doing all the right things. At this point, it's really kind of going in there and refining that. Sweet. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. All right, there's the Julio track you're listening to. All right, so Van, we're gonna get to probably one of your tracks. Do you have a preference? Which track? I'm gonna do the top one, unless you tell me otherwise. Yeah, I need more people sampling my voice. That's really what we need on this channel. Nice. I like what you got going on here. It has this really interesting combination of styles. It has like a little bit of this like 80s kind of thing, but also sounds very modern at the same time. Also like not very 80s. I feel like my biggest complaint here is that it seems like you went a little bit over the top with too many effects in certain situations. I think I like the effects that you're using, whether it's the delays or distortions or whatever. But I feel like a lot of it was too much, and I'm just like taking up a bunch of space in the mix, which made the whole thing sound like kind of muddy, in my opinion. there's this kind of just like lots of unwanted low frequencies, and I think some of it's coming from your effects and some of it's just coming from your bassy sounds. But watch out for the low end there, because I think it's just making your mix feel kind of overly crowded and a little bit washed out. I really like this section right here. That was super cool, and then I like how it went into the guitar part as well. So I feel like this bass right here might sound better just an octave higher. Right now, it just like it sounds a little bit too low. I mean, I think this is one of the culprits that's causing a lot of your issues in that low end, that creating that kind of mud. It might sound not as good an octave higher, in which case ignore that feedback, but at least try an octave higher, and then maybe layer it with like a sub bass, and that way you still get that nice kind of like plucky, kind of gritty sound, and then you still have the low end, but the low end has its own dedicated sub bass as opposed to the low end being part of this bass, which I think is creating a lot of these kind of like unwanted low end frequencies. And also watch the delay on that. Make sure if you have the delay on here, make sure you're EQing out the low frequencies from that delay, because you don't want those low frequencies bouncing around. Oops. Here's another example of a sound where I think the effects are a little bit too much. If you dial back the effects a little bit, it'll sound a little cleaner, and I think it'll play nicer with the bass line. Same thing here with this guitar. Dial back the effects a little bit, and I think it's going to create more room so you can hear everything better. But I like the sound, I like the tone you're getting out of it. But it just like, it has this echo-y quality to it that I think is not doing any favors. And then you have this really interesting transition here that I think is kind of cool, actually. Yeah, it's kind of like a weird long, like it sounds like there's like a fade in, fade out here. And normally I don't like that, but I think here I don't mind it. I think it works okay as a transition to the next part. These bells, I like them. I think you could layer them with another layer 1 octave higher, and then that would also sound cool. A lot of times with bell sounds, what I often like to do is have the main layer in like a middle frequency, and then have another layer an octave higher with like a lot of delay on it. Not like a lot of feedback, but a lot of dry wet. So you're getting the main bell sound being the main melody, and then you're getting these higher pitched bouncing, ping pong delays in the background. And that's a cool way to layer bells, and it pretty much always sounds pretty. You could try sidechaining some of your sounds here to your kick, and that'll make it pulse a little bit, and also make so you can hear the kick a little better. I wouldn't mind that. Yeah, same thing here. Too much effects on the guitar. Yeah, it's a cool, interesting, kind of weird, non-traditional arrangement, but it's working for me. I can get behind it. But yeah, watch out for the low end. Watch out for the effects. The big things, big takeaways here. And I think that'll create a lot of clarity in your mix and just allow you to hear everything better, and then actually mix it and actually be able to have it sound good. So yeah, so that is, I think, it. Chat, any other thoughts, questions, comments, feedback, any of that stuff? We are kind of running towards the end of the stream, and I believe at this point we've gotten through everybody's song except for Van, who put a few more tracks in there, which I will not have time to get to, but I will leave in the spreadsheet, so Van, I can take a look at them at the start of next stream. But yeah, really awesome tracks today. You guys were just crushing it. Lots of diversity in styles, which I'm really digging. I like all the experimental stuff, all the ambient weird stuff. Keep bringing me that stuff. Yeah, and so next week, Tuesday, I'll be doing another just hangout office hours kind of stream. And then Friday, we'll be back here once again doing the song feedback streams. For those of you guys who join us regularly, starting in either November or December, Friday feedback streams are going to Wednesdays. I don't know when the switch will be, but I'll do a few more weeks of Fridays, but Wednesday is going to be the new feedback stream day, just because Fridays are crazy busy for people, myself included. Sweet. Well, once again, I appreciate all you guys. Thanks for helping out, giving feedback. Thanks for sharing all your tracks. I know it's really scary to share songs, especially when they're not finished. It can be like really intimidating. And I get that, but that's what this is here for. So yeah, keep working on those tracks. Take care of yourselves. Have a very good weekend. Yeah, Wednesdays will probably be same time, but I'm not 100% sure about that. Most likely same time. Unfortunately, I have to lose the alliteration, which is really the whole reason I put the feedback stream on Fridays. So no more alliteration, but hopefully more people can make it. I know just Fridays are busy for people. Nice inverse. There's a lot of cool ways to do sidechaining these days. There's so many options. Sweet, yeah. Well, thanks you guys for stopping by, and I'll see you guys on Tuesday, or maybe next Friday, or maybe some other time in the future. Have a good weekend, and keep working on those tracks, and then send me those tracks after you're done working on them. Have a good one.